All right. Well, hello, guys, and welcome in. Welcome to today's show. This is the Passive Wealth Power Hour, and I'm here with my partner Patrick. Hello, Patrick. Welcome in, buddy.
Yes, hello, welcome. Thank you for being on, Desi. I'm just getting situated. I'm just getting
Yeah, it's
situated, getting
okay.
my mic straight, getting all this stuff ready to go. But yes, this is the Passive Wealth Power Hour, as you all know. And if you don't know, you're about to know that we get on here every Wednesday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific time on the socials. I believe we're probably live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and who knows where else. But
Yeah.
if you're going to be able to tune in to hear us talk about wealth building principles, passive cash flow is what we preach about. Cash flow is king. So we talk about cash flow. Again, I wore the cash flow hat today.
I
Uh,
like that.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, but we're going to talk about, guys, how to build wealth, how to keep wealth, how to pass wealth down and build a legacy, a financial legacy. So that's what we talk about in the Passive Wealth Power Hour. We're trying to come every Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time, to bring you guys some sort of nuggets, some sort of education, and we want to, open your mind a little bit and get you all thinking out there. But this is supposed to be a live Q&A. So y'all don't forget that we want you to participate. I'd like to see questions and comments in the comment section and things like that. So put your questions in the chat, get your questions to us, and we will answer them. Now, today we're going to discuss something that's dear to our hearts. It's a wonderful investment vehicle. Still today, most people don't even know about it. That's why we like to say it's the sexy side of real estate. It's the sexy side of real estate. Or what else we like to say, Des?
The best
We
kept secret.
It's the best kept secret in real estate investing, or at least it seems like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, guys, we're going to talk about, guys and gals, cash flow mortgage notes. We're going to talk about investing in real estate paper versus investing in real estate property. And we can discuss the differences, why we love the paper side of the business. We think it's just sexier. We're going to show y'all like a quick case study on what one of these note investments, mortgage note investments looks like. You know what it looks
Yeah.
like. We'll give them the good, bad, and the ugly. Right? That's what I like to say. The three possible outcomes: the good, the bad, the ugly. Which all of them look pretty good for us. As a matter of fact, none of them are ugly. So we'll go over that and teach you guys something maybe a little bit different than what you're used to. And I think people are used to rental properties. Everybody knows
Yeah.
what it is to be a landlord, you know. And a lot of people don't realize, Desi, I'm sure you can attest to this from real life experience, that landlording is not generally what it's all cracked up to be, so to speak.
Boy, oh boy, Patrick, you sure did hit the nail on the head with that statement. And I have to tell you too, Patrick, it's there's probably not a week that goes by that I don't talk to at least one disenchanted landlord. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
like, man, I thought that was going to be the answer. And I've been doing it now for 10 years and I am so over it. And that's why they reach out to us because they say, you mean to tell me I could actually get cash flow from real estate without being a landlord, without owning the property? And my answer is a resounding, absolutely, positively. And it's liberating.
it's funny. I mean, I like you say, you can collect monthly cash flow from real estate without owning the real estate. And it's funny, people's minds just it was tough for me in the beginning. I know
Yeah.
even Des, with your background, probably
Yeah.
right when you first heard about it,
Yeah.
you went, "Wait a minute, it's kind of hard to have it click." Right? I was talking to somebody at a meetup, a RIA. I went to a RIA meeting, as you know.
Hmm.
Well, was it last night? Yeah, I went to a RIA meeting last night, and I was talking to somebody and saying, one of the reasons that I think it still remains like the best kept secret in real estate, as we like to say, or most people don't even know about it and this kind of thing. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were saying how it's just weird for people's brains because when I say we buy people's mortgages and we own their mortgage, right? And they pay us their mortgage payment, we step into the shoes of the bank. You know the language, right? But see, no one ever in their right mind has ever really ever heard of someone sending their mortgage payment to someone else. It's always to a big bank, right? And that's
Yeah.
what it seems like. And so I was trying to clarify that yesterday to somebody in person, and they go, I see. Because as we'll get into, they don't, when you own a mortgage note, they don't send their mortgage payment to you, Desi. They don't write their mortgage payment to Desi and send it to your mailbox. It's not a landlording situation, folks. And so, yes, they don't, even when you're in the mortgage note business, and we invest in a mortgage note and we own someone's mortgage, we put a licensed loan servicing company in place as a third party to represent us to the borrower. And so the homeowner never sends a mortgage payment to a
I don't
person.
want to
That
talk to
would
those
that would
people.
be kind of weird. Sending my monthly mortgage to Desi would be weird.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want to talk to those people. I don't want them to know who I am. I just want the money. Okay, that's it.
Let's help these guys out, Des, because like some people that are on here may be listening and they say, I get it. I know. I've heard about this. I kind of get it. I've seen something about this. Some people are thinking, what are these nutcases talking about? What in the
Yeah,
world is a mortgage note and all this stuff? So
yeah.
let's start off with just kind of helping people understand what a note is. When people start, it's getting more and more popularized, right? So more and more people are hearing about note investing, but what is this note investing thing? What is a note? Let's just break that down for
Okay,
folks so they understand what it is we are
I,
talking
I
about.
got that. I got that.
Yeah,
I can do that.
certainly.
So, a note, a promissory note is basically an IOU. And we all know what an IOU is, right? It's when you take out a napkin or a piece of paper or the side of a banana and you write to somebody, I owe you X amount of dollars and I will pay you back, right? That's what a promissory note is. And Patrick, when a person buys a house, they go to the closing at the title company or at the attorney's office and they sign a stack of papers, that's like that thick. But there's two documents in that stack of papers that are absolutely positively the most important two documents in there. And one of them is called a mortgage. The other is a promissory note. The promissory note is an IOU from the homeowner, or from the borrower, I should say, to the bank. Saying, yeah, we know we owe you $250,000 and we're going to pay you over the next 30 years, X amount of dollars per month, every month, and that's all in the promissory note. And the mortgage basically is another document that says, if we don't pay you as we are supposed to under the terms of the note, then you can take our real estate. You can foreclose and take our house. So those are the two most important documents in that entire package. Everything else is all just really a bunch of filler paperwork
It's a
because
lot
the
of it too.
government says you got to have all these disclosures and stuff.
It's a lot of paperwork too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a bunch. It's a bunch. You can get writer's cramp signing all the paperwork, but most of that, not most, just about all of it is just junk that the government says needs to be in there, frankly. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
Legal
once you
disclosures
sign
and all
that
the rest of it.
promissory note and that mortgage document, you're in now. You owe that money, and you need to start making those payments whatever as per the terms of that note. But it's a great thing for the bank because now the bank knows that they're going to be getting a payment every month. You know that you don't have to come up with any more money to buy the house because the bank's going to give you the lion's share of the purchase price. Maybe the purchase price is 300,000. You only got to come up with 50,000, and the bank's going to give you a loan for 250. So it helps you out. It helps the bank out because they make money every month on that 250. They charge you something called interest, and that's where we come in because banks oftentimes want to recapitalize and get that $250,000 back, and so they will sell their position in that mortgage, and that's where we step in.
Yes. So that's a great explanation, Desi. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's, I hope, for the listeners out there, feel free to ask questions. Yep, this is the Passive Wealth Power Hour. We are here, Desi and myself, Patrick Franz and Desi Arnaz, 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time on your socials, talking about how to build wealth, keep wealth, pass it down, legacy, all this
Yeah.
good stuff. It's about money talk
It's
here,
all about money.
designed to be open Q&A for the public. So, yes, if you're hearing this, and you got the gist of what a mortgage note is, throw 1 in the chat, throw 1 in the comments. Just type a number 1, hit enter so we know what's up.
Yeah.
You guys are open to ask questions along the way. If we see a question come in the chat, come in the comments, we are trying to go ahead and address those right here live
Yeah.
on your social media channel. So That's what we do. We invest in the real estate paper, which is the underlying debt, okay, that someone owes, right? It's called a mortgage. People make a mortgage payment, is what they call it, right? People pay their mortgage payment, is how they refer to
One
it.
of the things I love about it, though, Patrick, is that it gives me cash flow without the headaches of being a landlord. I was a landlord. I bought my first rental property in 1982. That's before a lot of you guys were even born, right? I bought my first one, and I've had a bunch of rental properties, and I can tell you guys, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Now, I did it for 33 years, but I did it for 33 years because I didn't know anything else, and I did like the fact that I made money every month from my tenants when they paid, right? When they paid, and um, and I didn't know anything better to do. I tried putting money into the stock market, and I lost $10,000 in like 2 weeks. The first time I went into the
Sorry, I
market,
don't mean
and
to
I
laugh at
literally
that.
said, "Why am I? What am I doing? I'm a real estate guy. Stick with what you know, right?" So I pulled out of the stock market and stayed with real estate ever since.
Probably a blessing, man. If you would have made a quick 10 grand in 2 weeks, you probably would have stuck with it and it would have been turning out to be bad news
It
long
could
term.
have been bad news. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
My
yeah.
life would have gone very differently, I think. It probably was a blessing that I lost that money.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, God intervened. No, the here's the thing, people were just listening to you speak, and you said, well, yeah, it was really cool, sometimes being a landlord, when they paid on time and they were nice and so forth, but sometimes when they didn't pay and when this and that happened. So you have all these headaches associated with being a landlord, right? They call it all the terrible T's. They talk about leaky toilets and termite problems and all these different things, bad tenants and this, that, and the other. And so I'm sure somebody might be on here though, and a smart person may be saying, yeah, but if you own someone's mortgage, they may not pay that either, and you got all these problems too, and so forth. So what I did, Des, is I popped up a case study from our
Okay.
portfolio. If you don't mind, I'll share it real quick. We could just tell the folks about how the note investment world works. And boy, I'd like to see after we show them a little case study if it sparks any curiosities or questions in the chat, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a valid question. Yeah, well, you own a rental and they're paying on time every month, and you got the greatest dream tenant on the planet. They take care of the place, keep it clean, and they pay their. That's kind of rare. I mean, landlords know that's kind of rare.
Yeah.
It happens. Good for you.
Yeah.
It happens, but very rare. Most of the time, problems, things like that. But then you say, well, we buy the underlying paper. We step into the bank's shoes. We don't buy the property. We buy the paper. So we get to collect the cash flow every month from real estate without those headaches being a landlord. But people say, yeah, but, right? But, well, they can stop paying their mortgage and stuff like this. And so these are very valid questions. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and just show some folks here, okay?
Yeah, that could happen.
Let's
So,
show some folks here a case study, and we'll even show them what does happen, okay? Or how about what can happen? All right.
yeah.
So I just put this together in a very simple format, Des.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't want people to get confused with the brochure over here, but this is just an old brochure that made things look more visibly attractive. But we're going to go over these numbers, so don't get confused by the brochure on the left. But at least the brochure on the left has a nice little picture of the property. So you can see this is a normal house out there in Georgia, obviously. We call this one a
Hmm.
Georgia peach. We call it a Georgia peach. Let's see if the audience out there on the social medias think that it's a peach of an investment, right?
Okay.
We'll see what they think. Okay. But just to start off with, folks out there, okay, when we buy a mortgage note, there's only three things that someone is going to do as a borrower. And you can put yourself in a borrower's shoes right now. And you ask yourself, if you own a home and you owe a mortgage to the bank right now, and you own a home, you're a homeowner, but you owe mortgage balance to the bank, okay?
Hmm.
Tell me if I'm wrong. These are the three things that you're going to do. Right? I always say, look at it from the borrower's standpoint. If you're a borrower and you owe money on your house to the bank and you're living there, you can either pay your mortgage as you've agreed to pay it, and that bank will just keep collecting cash flow from you every month by way of mortgage payment until finally, years and years and years from now, it'll finally get paid off, right? So you can pay it as you agreed to pay over time. You can pay your mortgage off early. This happens by refinancing. People do refis, they
Yeah.
refinance, or they just sell the house for crying out loud. Or hey, people come into an inheritance and they just want to pay it off because they don't like having a mortgage payment. Either way, you can pay off a debt early. You can pay off your mortgage early,
Yeah.
right? or you can stop paying it.
Yeah.
And so we
Don't
talk
pay it.
about, yeah, don't pay it, right? Don't pay it. Okay, so just so that everybody's clear, type 1 in the comments if you're out there listening. Type a 1 in the comments if you understand what I'm saying. Okay, if you have a mortgage and you owe a bank money, you're either going to pay them as you agreed to pay them, you're going to pay them off early, or you're going to not pay them. Okay, it's about all we got. And so think of now being in the bank's position, or shall we say the note investor's position. Okay, so we go and invest in one of these notes. Now remember, this little property here in Georgia, we're not buying the property. We're buying the underlying debt. We're buying the mortgage debt, okay, collateralized by that property.
Okay.
So folks, we're stepping into the bank's shoes. The bank is jumping out of the shoes. We're stepping into it, and we're taking over the remaining payments of someone's mortgage. So just type a 1 if you understand that, okay? So let's go over what happens, Des, because if we buy someone's mortgage as an investment, as an asset, they can either pay us as agreed, they can pay off their mortgage early, or they can stop paying us. And let's take a peek at what that looks like.
Okay.
Okay. So here's what pay as agreed looks like, folks. Okay. What happened was, if you see right over here, the mortgage balance that was owed, okay, when this mortgage was up for sale, okay, the mortgage balance that was owed by the homeowners living there was $88,717. But folks, you're seeing right here that we invested $70,698 to buy the note. So right off the bat, Des, this will blow people's minds, right? Right off the bat, this usually, wait a minute. So we are buying 88,000 and change worth of mortgage debt for 70 grand cash, or 70 and change. So what people are starting to understand here now out there on the social medias is that these mortgage notes are bought at a discount. Why? I mean, if people can't guesstimate on their own, Des, from an old school real estate investor that's been through it, why would you say that's pretty cool when you have 88 grand asset, or 88 grand worth of owed debt that you're taking over for 70 grand cash, meaning you don't pay dollar for the debt? Why is that a cool thing?
Well, because Patrick, you have equity in that position, in that investment from day one. Because if that homeowner were to sell that house and pay you off the next month, they owe you 88,000, not 70,000 that you paid. So you could walk away with an $18,000 profit in 30 days.
We buy at a discount, therefore we have instant equity the day we buy, folks. Okay, so just so you guys understand that, we're taking over 88,000 and change worth of debt, and we're buying into this for 70,698. Okay,
But Patrick, why would the bank sell you an $88,000 debt for $70,000? That doesn't make sense.
as we say, there's several different reasons why owners of these mortgages will sell them time to time, right? And it's not just banks, Des, right? We get them from banks, hedge funds, private sellers, real estate investors that use this seller carryback as their exit strategy, and so on. And so there's just several reasons why somebody would want to have a lump sum of cash now in their hands rather than a payment stream. Because remember, folks, this debt, okay, is spitting off a monthly mortgage payment of $659 a month. So whoever owned this note before we bought it, whoever owned it, had an asset they were sitting on that was producing $659 a month of passive cash flow for them, okay, for that lender. So maybe they just decided, well, I have a use for some cash. This is just one reason, but they have a use for some cash, and $659 a month ain't going to do it. So they want to sell this note to get cash in their hand today. And they're going to sell it at a discount because you're paying cash today for a future promise payment stream in the future. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's by way of time value of money, we'll just go with that. that
let's
you
go
should
with
be
that.
buying this debt at a discount. Money promised to you later on in the future is not worth as much money, or is not worth the same amount as if you got that same money today. That's why. Okay. So, but anyways, we can go over 50 reasons why they sell these things. Okay. The fact is, folks, they sell them. And if you're in line to buy one, lucky you. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one just so happened to be able to be purchased for 70 grand, 698. We were buying 88,717 worth of debt. Okay. So folks, when we buy this, we invest 70 grand. Okay. And if someone just paid as agreed, that means if you look right over here, there was 240 payments left. That's 20 years. So guys, we're taking over 20 years of payments. The payments are $659 a month.
Hmm.
So this is how that works out, folks. If you bought this as an investment, you would have invested 70,698. You would be signing up to collect 240 months of $659 a month. If you just put that in a calculator, 240 months times 659, well, if they paid as agreed, your $70,000 investment would net you 158,247
Yeah.
over the 20 years, which gives you a 9.5% return, or what they call yield, annually. So you're, by holding on to this and sitting pretty. And Des, do people tend to pay their mortgage payments?
They do.
It's one of the
Way
bills
better than
people tend to pay.
my borrowers pay better than my tenants used to.
People tend to pay their mortgage payments. Okay, they got skin in the game. It's their house. They don't want to lose their house. People don't want to lose their house. Okay, so boy, wouldn't that be a nice investment? You invest 70,698, and you just sit back. And folks, we're talking for 20 years. You could collect $659 a month, mailbox money, passive cash
Hmm.
flow every month, returning 158,247 contractually and steadily, not with the ups and downs of the stock market. And boy,
Yeah.
folks, I don't know if you know, but that beats the S&P 500. Okay?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So drop an exclamation point, right, in the comments if you're okay with, if you're like thumbs up, okay, that earning 9.5% per year for 20 years straight with as much passivity as you're going to get in a real estate investment, okay? Just collecting monthly payments. So you're making 9.5% per year. Now remember, this is $659 a month coming in too, Des. So that can be used to live off of course, and better one's lifestyle, or like sometimes I do, that can be compounded, right? This $659 a month coming in, if you don't need it to live off of, can go into some other wonderful investment opportunities, maybe
Sure.
cryptocurrency, maybe tax liens, maybe who knows what. Okay.
Sure.
So, folks, remember, we're talking about mortgage note investing, the sexy side of real estate, buying the paper, not the property. This is the Passive Wealth Power Hour. This is open Q&A. We encourage you all out there to ask questions, comment, and participate, okay? Every single week, Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. So let's continue, Des. If people would just, John dropped an exclamation point in the comments there.
Yeah.
John, that's pretty good, right? Okay, you're going to make 9.5% every single year, contractually, no ups and downs, no volatility, and it's pretty passive because people just pay their mortgage payment usually. Okay, so let's go there. And we had an exclamation point in the comment, which means, yeah, that's good, man. That would cut it. That would cut the cake, so to speak. All right. Now, if they paid off early, which means they could refinance with a new lender, because that's who we are. We're first lien lender in this position. So they could refinance with a new lender. They could sell the house and move from Georgia to Florida, whatever. Okay. They could come into an inheritance and just decide to pay off their mortgage. They don't want no mortgage payment no more. Now, since we don't have a crystal ball on when somebody would pay their mortgage off early, we're just using 24 months time for the numbers here in this example. So guys, remember, we're taking over $88,717 worth of debt. Okay, we're buying that debt at a discount, so they still owe $88,717, but we're buying that for $70,698 cash. Remember, it comes with a $659 a month mortgage payment. So in this case, what we're saying, folks, is we invested into this asset. We were hanging on to it. They paid their mortgage payment on time for 24 months, and then they decided to sell the house and move to Florida. Okay, and they had to pay off whatever was owed at that point. All right, so here's what happened. We invest $70,000. We collect 24 payments of $659, which is $15,816 collected during those 24 months. And even though they paid us $15,816 over the last 24 months, their balance only went down from $88,717 24 months prior when we bought it. And although they paid $15,816 in cash flow to us over those 24 months, their balance only went down to $84,069. So it only went down about $4,000, folks. Okay.
You know,
Even though they
Patrick,
paid-
that's something that people, when they look at their amortization schedules after buying a house, that's what makes them want to throw up, right? It's like, I'm paying $1,000 a month or whatever, and only like 100 is going on against my balance because most of this money is interest. And you just showed that right here.
you know, uh, Yeah, that amortization. Great for the bank, horrible for the borrowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wee. Okay. So we're talking about being the bank here, but everybody feels the brunt of that. Like Desi's saying, if you've ever had a mortgage, right? Oh, I borrowed 300 grand to buy that house. I'm paying 300 grand off over 30 years time with such and such interest rate. By the time you're done paying that thing, you didn't pay 300 grand, you paid 1.1 million. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is kind of cool, folks. Okay. So check it out. We put in 70 grand to buy this thing, 70 grand a change. We collect 24 payments of $659, recouping already $15,816. But when they go decide to sell the house and move to Florida, they've got to pay us off what's owed at that time. And at that time, their balance had only gone from 88,717 to 84,069. This is what we are now owed as
Okay.
their first position lender if they want to sell the house and go somewhere else. So look at the numbers. We invested $70,698. We collected the 24 payments of $659 for a total of $15,816. Then they had to pay us off the $84,069. So, folks, that's in 24 months' time. Total monies collected of $99,885 from a $70,000 investment. That's a 19.3% yield. So, folks, what we're talking about is for the 2 years you were involved in this investment, you've now got 19.3% return for the 2 years you were involved in that deal.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, drop an exclamation point in the comments or the chat if you're okay. If you owned this investment, would you be okay if your borrower paid their mortgage off early?
And
Would
you
be
made
okay
19%?
for 2 years in a row, right?
Yeah.
For 2 years in a row.
I
Yeah,
would
drop
love
an
it.
exclamation point if that's a fair return for you. Okay.
I would love it.
Yes, sir. Well, this is a note from our portfolio, so we do love it, right? Now, this is the one everybody gets worried about, right, Des? Because the same thing you said earlier. You're talking about, hey, being a landlord can be cool if everything's going great, but that doesn't usually work out. Sometimes people don't pay their rent, and sometimes, you got to chase rents and all this stuff. Well, somebody could say, well, if you own someone's mortgage, they could stop paying that too. So let's talk about that. Why don't I let you cover this section, Des?
Okay. Well, from time to time, people do stop paying their mortgages. And on a national level, in our portfolio, and we have a sizable portfolio, we run at about 97% most of the time. 3% of our portfolio might be in a default status like this, where someone has stopped making their payments for at least 3 months. That's what a default status is, right? They missed 3 payments in a row. And when that happens, though, Patrick, as the lender, we have the rights, just like Bank of America. If you don't pay Bank of America your mortgage payment, they have rights. We have those very same rights, and we have the right to step in and repossess the house, take the property away from the homeowner. And in your example here, let's just say that happens 2 years into this deal. These people don't decide to move to Florida. 2 years in, they decide they're going to get a divorce. Hubby moves out, stops paying the mortgage. Wife is sitting there going, I don't even have a job, and she can't afford it. Okay, so at that point, the only option that we have is to repossess that property. The person that's in there cannot afford it. Now, it takes us about a year or so to foreclose, and it can cost us anywhere. Most states is more like $3,500 to foreclose. It could be as much as $5,000. Fortunately, in Georgia, this one here, Patrick put on there 12 months to foreclose. Georgia, fortunately, is not quite so fast, but on average, most states take about 12 months. Georgia, I'm sorry, is not so slow. Georgia, you can foreclose in about 5 months. But let's just say it took 12 months to get through the foreclosure process, because that's a really conservative estimate, Patrick. So I like that. And then we could sell that property, because once we repossess the property, we take it back. It's ours. And we could move into it. We could Airbnb it. We could rent it out. We can donate it to charity. It's our house. We can do whatever we want to do with it. We like to sell them. Now, I noticed that on the on your flyer there, down in the lower right-hand corner, it says the market value of the property is 110,000. But I see that you said sell the property for 100,000.
What I was doing there, obviously, Des, was just saying to the folks, let's just say for the 24 months we were in the deal, that for ease of understanding here, folks, for the 24 months we're involved in the deal, the price of the property itself didn't go up or down. Okay, it just stayed
Okay.
the same. That's the example. And of course, if you're going to sell a property, and I should have changed the language there, but if you sell a property for 110 grand, you ain't going to get 110 grand. You probably
Right.
get more somewhere around 100 because you got to
Right.
pay the realtor fees, closing, all this other stuff.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's why I was saying that the property didn't change value because folks, when we bought this asset for 70 grand and change, remember we were taking over a loan, taking over the debt, which is 88,717 owed. Okay. But this little house right here acting as our collateral when we bought this note for 70 grand was worth 110. So the $110,000 physical property is our safety net as a first position lender. It acts as our
That's awesome.
collateral. And we're just saying that our collateral value didn't go up or down within the 2 years we were in this deal. It just stayed the same for ease of explaining purposes. So we put it on the market for the value that it's valued at of 110 grand, and we sold it, and we ended up getting about 100 grand in our pocket.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's how we wind up with the yield. So if you invest $70,000, you collect 15, almost $16,000 worth of payments, and then you walk away with a sale price of $100,000. You put that into your financial calculator, you're going to see that what you actually earned is 24% for each year that you were invested in that. 24% per year.
Yep. And it ends up being 3 years in a row, actually, because it was the 24 months.
Yeah.
And then I put here a 12-month foreclosure.
Yeah.
Right. So it was 36 months we were involved in the deal because even though it doesn't take in Georgia 12 months, I was just,
No, that's fine. It's best to be conservative.
conservative here. Right, guys? So that's what would happen if they did not pay. If they did not pay, we would have invested 70 grand. And within 36 months' time, we would have collected somewhere around 115,816. So you put that in a calculator, invested 70 grand and change, and you collected 115,000 bucks basically over 36 months.
Yeah.
You end up somewhere around 24% yield. Got to use a financial calculator to get to that. But who would be okay with that? Making 24% on your investment per year for 3 years in a row.
You know what, Patrick? I was watching the movie Die Hard. You know that movie Die Hard?
Oh,
Where,
yeah.
yeah, that's great. That's a great movie.
Certainly.
And I remember the scene in that movie where Hans, I think that was his name, Hans.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the bad guy. He goes, "We're going to be sitting on a beach earning 20%." Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he's committing a crime to earn 20%, and here you are earning 24% completely legally.
Yeah, ain't no crime. I'll tell you what. Maybe the rules for mortgages when the banking industry created 30-year fully amortized mortgage loans and made it seem like we could all have the American dream now. Maybe that was sort of one-sided and the banks knew what they were doing, right?
Yeah, I think
It's
they knew
not,
what they were doing.
yeah, fantastic for us, but no, it's fantastic for the banks. And it gave us the opportunity as consumers to have cars that we actually enjoy driving, that we have a house that's large enough for our actual family
Yeah.
and so forth, right? So the American dream did happen. I'm not dogging the banks that much. All I'm saying is that banks aren't dumb. Banks are pretty good at making money, and banks invented the rules for this 30-year amortized mortgage, and certainly benefits them more than it benefits us, although we get to have the home and the car we like and all this stuff. Okay, but debt-driven society, here we go. We are just showing you folks that you can invest in the debt. You can invest in the debt. You can invest in the paper, not the property. You can buy these mortgage notes and collect passive monthly cash flow from real estate. And by the way, all over the country, because most people like to have their rental properties in their own neighborhood so they can drive over there and fix the toilet if need be or check on it, right? Well, Wells Fargo Bank never comes to visit your house. If you call Wells Fargo and tell them you got a leaky toilet, they'll say call a plumber. Okay.
Yeah.
So as the bank, we're also able to own these assets all over the United States versus just in our own backyard. So it's kind of cool, right? But if they pay you as agreed, you collect passive cash flow for many, many, many years that can better your lifestyle or be compounded. It's a fantastic thing. It is contractual returns, not subject to the ups and downs of the markets or who gets elected president or any of that stuff. Okay. So that's what's beautiful. And if they pay you off early, folks, since we're able to buy these mortgage loans at a discount, we don't mind if they pay us off early. In fact, we welcome it because we're going to get our money back faster. And also it's going to up our return on our investment. There's an upside there. Okay. If they pay it off early.
So Patrick, are you saying the worst case scenario in this particular thing here was 9.5%? That's the worst case.
Yeah, right. Because if they stop paying and we get the real estate and we just sell it, boy, we got 24% per year. So yeah, what you're looking at, folks, which is really interesting, is that the worst case for us as a note investor is that they just pay us as agreed with no headaches, and they just keep paying their mortgage payment on time every month for 20 straight years,
That's
and we
the
sit
worst
back and play
case.
passive. That's the worst at a 9.5% return per year for 20 years in a row with no landlord duties. That's the worst that can happen.
Wow. Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's powerful.
Wow. So let me ask, okay? If we have somebody that pays us as agreed in this specific example, we make 9.5% on our money per year for 20 years straight. If they pay us off early in this example, we use 24 months. Well, if we held on to this thing for 2 years, for the 2 years that we're involved in this deal, we don't make a 19.3% return. We're not talking ROI here, folks. We're talking about we made 19.3% return per year
Right.
for the 2 years in a row that we were involved in this deal. That's just because they paid us off early. Good for them. And what if they stop paying, folks? Well, listen, we use foreclosure as our last option. We got, deed in lieu of foreclosure, cash for keys, loan modifications. Heck, if we can keep them in the house and keep them paying, we're good because, foreclosures and stuff takes a little bit of work. I want passivity. So we try to do everything we can, but in the end all be all that they can't keep the property, we get it. We get the property. And if you buy right and you're protected with your numbers, look at this, guys. If what most people think is the worst thing that could happen, which is you own a mortgage and they stop paying the mortgage. Well, at a 24% per year return for 36 months, that's 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
Most people would be just
Yeah.
fine and dandy with that. So you tell me if it's a peach, type peach in the comments. If it's not, right, not. Okay. Is it a peach of an investment? So anyways, I wanted to show everybody does just a case study so they can kind of see what it is we are talking about, okay? So we can open it up to questions, comments, if you guys have any, and you can put them in the comments or the chat, right?
Definitely a
Feel free.
peach.
Oh, peach, that's you, Desi. We know you think it's a
Yeah.
peach.
Definitely a peach.
We know you think it's a peach. But I'll stop sharing here a little bit, and so we can chat it out, right? So I hope people are understanding why this is pretty cool. In fact,
You know what else I like about them, Patrick?
what do you like about them?
People can use their retirement accounts for this. They can use their IRA, their 401k, their Coverdell, or whatever they have for their retirement, or they can use their savings, mattress money. It's amazing what you can do. This is what helped me personally make a financial comeback. Investing in this asset class helped me make a financial comeback after being devastated by the 2008 recession. I was wiped out financially by that. And I didn't have money. I didn't have, like in this case here, I didn't have $70,000 to buy a note. But I learned that you can actually invest in mortgage notes, Patrick, using other people's money, and you don't even need to have a credit check or background check to do it.
Yeah.
And that, to me, was mind-blowing. But it's absolutely true.
Hey, thank you, Nicholas. Nicholas says, hey, guys, I'm enjoying the content. And I can't see who that is, but Mr. says, definitely a peach for sure. John was throwing some exclamation points into there saying, yeah. So you guys kind of see why we call it the sexy side of real estate investing, okay? What they say is that being a mortgage note investor is like being a landlord, but without all the headaches involved in being a landlord. Right? That's kind of how we state it. So you don't have to deal with the terrible T's, the tenants, the bad tenants, the toilets, the termites, the trash outs, all this stuff you don't deal with because you're the bank. So you collect someone's mortgage payment with interest, not a rent payment from a tenant. Okay. A mortgage payment from a homeowner. Yep. Not a rent payment from a renter. Okay. So very much similar, but you said something pretty cool, Des, where maybe I can help people understand it too, which is why most people don't know about it, why we call it the best kept secret in real estate investing, when really it's not a kept secret at all. But it's kind of an institutional game prior to '08, right? Because you talked about you haven't been hit by the economic disaster that happened in '08. And people watch the movie The Big Short, which I think is just a great movie. It has great actors in it. If you're not into the banking stuff and all that, just watch it because it's a great movie. But if you want to learn more about the mortgage meltdown that happened in '08, everybody felt it, but maybe people don't know about what happened or how it happened or why. But, institutions have been doing this for ages. Most people who are homeowners who have been paying a mortgage have at some point in their life had a transfer letter. They've received a transfer letter in the mail that said like, hey, no longer pay Wells Fargo anymore because Wells Fargo transferred your mortgage to Bank of America. So you better start paying Bank of America now, right? A lot of people maybe have had that happen to them with a transfer letter. And that's how they know about banks trading mortgages, right? So you had to, have 50 or $100 million to sort of sit at the lunch table to talk about note trades because it was an institutional game prior to '08 mainly. And mainly notes were sold in large things called pools, which is you can't just buy one note. You got to buy 100 of them in a package, right? And so what happened in '08, of course, is the mortgage meltdown happened and all these institutions, the big banks, the big funds, and all of those that owned, not just a couple mortgages. We're talking these companies owned millions of mortgages in their portfolio. Well, they got the bandwidth to deal with 4, 5, 6% default rate, right? Because they can have people working out loan mods, contacting the borrowers, contacting attorneys, doing the foreclosures, doing all that stuff. So they have the bandwidth to do that and the infrastructure. Well, geez, in '08, some banks and these folks really quickly found themselves with 50% of their whole portfolio was not paying their mortgage anymore. And in lies a very interesting problem, doesn't it, for them, is that they just didn't have the manpower, they didn't have the infrastructure, nor the time or resources to do 2.5 million loan modifications or 2.5 million foreclosures and that kind of thing.
Right.
And so they were just literally dumping mortgage note inventory onto what we like to call the secondary mortgage market, where guys and gals like us can buy these mortgage notes where you don't have to be a big institution with $100 million. So they flooded the secondary mortgage market with so many notes, 2010, 11, 12, 13, the Wild West in this game, right? Just flooded with note inventory. And that's when it became a little bit more popularized, okay? A little bit more popularized, a little bit more mainstream. But, I mean, in our opinion, Des, with this note investing stuff, by opportunity, we haven't even cracked the surface of the bell curve yet.
It's still ground floor, no doubt. Because the average person, you walk down the street and if you were to ask the question, hey, do you know how to invest in stock? Most people go, well, sure, I know exactly what to do. I just call my stockbroker or a stockbroker and I can invest in stocks. Same thing for real estate. But you ask the average person, do you know how to invest in mortgage notes? They're going to be like a deer in headlights and like, what? What are you even talking about, right? So it's still ground floor. And that is why we're doing this show today, I assume, right, Patrick? So that we can kind of spread the word.
100%, 100%. Well, everybody's look, all you folks that are in traditional real estate endeavors, don't you understand quite yet? Hasn't the Pace Morbies of the world shoved it down your throat enough that the paper side of it, the creative financing strategies, the money side of the real estate game is just as important to understand and be an expert at as the physical side of real estate? Okay. It gives you more options. It makes you more profitable. It gives the people you work with more options, right? The more educated you are and the more options you have, the more effective you can be as an investor out there in the marketplace. And so this is the paper game. This is seller financing. This is partials. This is there's all sorts of different things that are involved in this as technique that you guys can master very easily. And so, this is the part of the show is to tell people this exists. And maybe you want to get into note investing, right? Maybe you have questions about it. Remember, folks, this is the Passive Wealth Power Hour, 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time, every single Wednesday, hosted by myself, Patrick Franz, my partner, Desi Arnaz. We're here to talk about wealth building, keeping wealth, and passing wealth down to family, passive cash flow, legacy. It's all about that kind of talk here and trying to drop some nuggets. But we want you guys to ask questions and to throw your comments, okay? we want you guys to participate. That's why we're here. It's supposed to be live, open Q&A, which most people don't do. Most people charge money for this stuff. We want you guys to be able to ask your questions, okay? Now, what Desi was alluding to is we run the Node Investor University. And that's pretty much self-explanatory, I think, there, folks. But if you want to learn the sexy side of real estate, if you want to learn how to invest in the paper, not the property, if you want a more passive lifestyle, you want to be able to step into the bank's shoes and play under the same rules as the big boys, okay, you may want to check us out at nodeinvestoruniversity.com. You're welcome to reach out to myself, Patrick at investbrilliantly.com, okay? Patrick at investbrilliantly.com. You reach out to me if you want to get a call. I can give you my calendar link. We can get on a call and talk about you getting enrolled in the university so that you can start to change your life with this game like we have. Des, let me ask you real quick. How has this node investing changed your life? Because I know, and let me preface, because I know you've been a real estate agent. You've owned 3 Century 21 firms. You've flipped houses. You've owned several pieces of real estate yourself. You've been in the game, right? You've been in the game, and you've been
1980.
now,
I got into the real estate business.
yeah, and so that's why I love for people to hear your story because you have a wealth of wisdom because of all the experiences you've been through, and not all positive. You've been through some bad experiences. It's not all rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah, I
But
even
when-
had a tenant strike in 2 of my apartment buildings. Well, all the tenants got together and stopped paying their rent at once.
epic.
Yeah, I know. Deal with that. But I
Epic.
still had to pay the bank, Patrick.
So these are the lessons, right, that brought your mindset into this, where you found out that you could be the bank. You found out that you could be on the sexy side of the real estate game, and you
Yeah.
made a full-on switch, right? How has that affected your life? Why would you recommend other people get into this?
Well, for me, I got wiped out financially in the 2008 recession because I owned a mortgage company and I was trying to keep that company open because I thought the recession was going to be over in like 8 months or a year maybe. And I was dead wrong. And I went through my life savings, I went through my retirement money, my IRA, I went through, I sold. Actually, I had paid cash for a Lincoln Navigator, a few years
Oh, yeah.
earlier, and I refinanced my Navigator so that I can pull some cash out just to keep the doors open because I kept thinking, well, the market's going to turn around, and I didn't want to lay people off. I had 103 employees. I didn't want to lay people off or close my doors, but at the end of the day, I found I ran out of money before the market came back, and I literally just had to shut my doors. And I found myself with no retirement money. I found myself with no assets because I had sold all my assets, and I found myself with no income because people were not buying houses. I mean, hedge funds were buying houses during that time, but they were paying cash, and I owned a mortgage company. Nobody was taking mortgages, so my income went down to pretty much zero. All my assets were gone, and I found myself in 2013. I turned 60 years old, and I was flat broke, Patrick, flat broke, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was scared because 60 and broke is not where anybody wants to be. and and one day, I was surfing the internet. As a matter of fact, it was on the 4th of July in 2013. My wife and I were going to go to the beach that day, and I was up early surfing the internet because I'm an early bird and she sleeps a little bit later. And I ran across some guy talking about investing in mortgage notes. And even though I had owned a mortgage company, I never knew that I could own a mortgage on someone's home, that I could personally own it. And so I thought it was intriguing. And so I started watching all of his videos on YouTube and all that stuff. And it turns out it made a lot of sense to me because I understood the mortgage business because I owned a mortgage company. Well, this guy was coming to San Diego where I lived the next month. And so I was able to borrow some money from my sister to attend one of his weekend things for like $750, right? She put it on her credit card for me because I didn't have any money, none. And so I went to his weekend thing, and he wanted to charge me like $12,000 to actually, how you go to these things? They say they get you in the door for one price, and then they try to upsell you to something much better. You need one-on-one coaching. Well, that's $12,000, and I was like, dude, I had to borrow the $750 to get here. I don't have $12,000, and so for me, that just wasn't an option. But what I did know is that this was what I had been looking for my entire real estate career. I was looking for a way to earn cash flow from real estate without all the big old headaches and hassles of being a landlord. So I knew I had to figure it out. And over time, Patrick, I was able to kind of figure it out. And I did it by studying it at that time. There wasn't much to learn, there wasn't much training online, right? This is 2013. It wasn't not like today, you can learn a lot of stuff on YouTube University. Back then, there was like only 3 people talking about it. And I studied everything that I could, and I read any books that I could find on it. And before long, I realized, okay, I may not have any money, but these are still good deals. And so I started telling people that I knew that had a few dollars or had retirement accounts. I started telling other people, you need to buy notes. I mean, there was nothing in it for me, but I was saying, you need to buy notes. This is a great investment. And so I started helping people find notes. And finally, one day, a guy came to me. He goes, Desi, I love the notes that you helped me find, but I really don't understand this stuff. I love the fact that I'm getting this cash flow. He says, I want to buy some more notes, but I want to partner with you. And I said, well, dude, I don't have any money. I told you that already. He goes, no, no, no. I'll put up the money. You have the expertise. And so, Patrick, that was kind of the thing that got me started. And I thought, well, if he's willing to do that, maybe there's someone else that's willing to do that.
Sure.
And so I started building a portfolio of mortgage notes by partnering with people who put up the money, and I have the expertise, and I could find the notes, and we split the monthly payment.
Mm-hmm.
If it's $1,000 a month, they get a part, and I get a part. And so it made sense for both of us. And so that's how I got myself out of the hole. And within just about 4 years or so, I was to the point where I didn't need a job at all. I had taken a small job in there in the meantime, managing a real estate office for a friend of mine. They were paying me like 50 grand a year, not a whole bunch of money, but it was enough to kind of keep the lights on. But after about 4 years of doing this on the side part-time, I didn't need that 50 grand. I quit that job. And then from there, my income just took off because I wasn't tied up working all day, you know what I mean, for somebody else. And today I'm wealthy and I don't have to work at all. And I just bought 2 mortgage notes in the last 30 days. Again, using the same principles that I've just shared with you. I still continue to buy these things. I try to buy one every month. That's my goal, is to buy one every month. And I never, ever use my own money. I never, ever have to have credit reports run on me or background checks. And Patrick, I taught you how to do this, and I know that you purchased a whole bunch. And you and I together started something called Note Investor University, where we teach other people how to do that. So why don't you pick it up from there?
Yes, if you folks are interested in understanding how this works, okay, I sort of forced Desi, I might say. I forced Desi because he is such a wealth of knowledge, and he taught me most everything I know in this mortgage note space. I owe him that. And I said, boy, oh boy, if more and more people out here in this world could learn from Desi and be able to change their lives as well. And I know Desi's a Christian. Desi did not come from a family of money, and Desi is a giver and wants to give back. So it was a perfect fit when I said, look, let's create Note Investor University and make it affordable, right? We know that the average going price to teach the note investing space in this marketplace is like 12 grand to 50 grand. Right. People charge extraneous amounts of money to learn this stuff, and good for them. They are very good at what they do, and people get results. But we decided we wanted to get people those same type of results, but we didn't want to charge them a lot of money to get there, right? Because you and I didn't have a whole ton of money when we started in the game, and we understand that. And this could be life-changing. So we created Note Investor University. It's a school, and we created a kind of the reason why we called it a university. I wanted it to be very easy to follow. Almost like when you go through semesters of college, how you eventually get to the end and you know everything, right? And you can pass the test. So I want to make it very easy for people to learn. Desi is a very good person to learn from. And so I've had Desi put together some video trainings and some wonderful things that can get you to a pro status in this game very quickly. Now, what does that mean? Pro status in this game. Here's the idea, folks. You want to learn how to do a couple different things. One, you want to learn how to raise private capital. Okay? Very good skill to have. We're building some apartments in Florida right now with our investment fund, separate from notes, right? We're building some apartments out there in Florida. We don't have $6.5 million to build a 32-unit apartment in our own checking accounts, folks. We have to go raise money from other people. So always, no matter where you want to go in the real estate game, good to learn how to raise private capital. It can help set you free and help you grow your portfolio
Yeah.
of assets way quicker than you can do with your own pocketbook. So that's one thing. Number two, we want to get you to be able to buy notes, buy and sell notes and trade notes like a pro. Okay. And add more and more monthly cash flow to you and your family's portfolio, each note that you acquire. Okay. We want to set you on the path and help you buy your first couple notes by holding your hand through the process. Okay. So you can fly the nest and continue to do this as long as you want for the rest of your life. Okay. And we're going to get you to a certain point of passive cash flow to where the passive cash flow so quickly and easily pays for any type of investment into our program. So
Yeah.
if you are interested in learning more about Node Investor University, how you can learn how to buy the paper, not the property, how maybe you can get yourself out of the woes and the problems that you may have of being a landlord. You might be a washed up landlord. You might be older and not want to participate actively anymore. You're looking for a more passive thing. Maybe you're somebody that just likes structure. You're not, you don't like the ups and downs of the stock market, this, that, and the other. Maybe you're somebody that's like, hey, I want to get into something as an entrepreneur. I want to go be a house flipper. I want to go be a syndicator. Well, you may want to try this. Not only goes hand in hand, but also this may be an avenue that you might like better. Okay. So you can go to nodeinvestoruniversity.com. Nodeinvestoruniversity.com is our website. Okay. And you can check that out. If you have questions about this stuff, reach out to me. I have put my calendar link in the chat. It's calendly.com/the note mentor. Okay. Calendly.com/the note mentor. Get on my calendar. Let's talk about how we can help you get enrolled in the Node Investor University. And you may be able to change your life in very quick fashion because mortgage notes are pretty badass.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I tell you what, I remember when I started doing those deals, Patrick, and I just remember thinking the very first time that I had a person that, as I mentioned, partnered with me, I thought that was pretty cool. And since that time, since you and I started the university during COVID, we started it the month before COVID hit, if you remember, February of 2020. Um, since that time, we have had more than 800 students go through the university, more than 800 students. Many of them have embraced this and have created financial freedom for themselves, or at least a substantial passive income coming in. Some have, I know, replaced their income from their jobs. They've been able to quit their jobs. Not everybody wants to do that, but if they want to do that, what you teach in Node Investor University will help them to get that accomplished. And it doesn't take forever. It happens way faster than people think because this is still a ground floor opportunity. So I just want to share that, Patrick.
It's huge. So again, this is the Passive Wealth Power Hour with myself, Patrick Franz, my partner, Desi Arnaz. We're coming to you guys live on the social media channels every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. And we're going to give you guys insight and nuggets on how to build wealth, keep wealth, pass wealth down to your family, and build a financial legacy and infrastructure for you and your family. All right.
Yeah.
So John said good stuff. Hey, thank you, John. And let's open it up. I know that we had Nicholas on, we had Mr. on, we had John on. There was a few people on. I didn't check the other social media channels, but at least we've got 2-3 minutes left. If anybody has a comment, if anybody has a question, feel free to ask. This is designed to be open Q&A. Desi and I love to talk. We love to educate. We love to drop nuggets, but also we're here for you folks. This is why we're here. So every single Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m., we're going to bring you guys some nuggets like this, but we want you guys to openly ask questions, and we want to be able to answer your questions live on the social media channels, okay?
Yeah.
So feel free, if anybody has any questions, any last comments, go ahead, put them in there. If we can see them, we'll go ahead and field them. Today, we spoke to you all folks about the sexy side of real estate investing. Investing in the real estate paper, not the property. Buying the mortgage note and investing in the debt. It puts you in the bank's shoes. It allows you to collect passive cash flow from real estate all over the country without owning the real estate. Therefore, you don't have the same headaches and the same drama involved in being a landlord, okay? And so you want to get into this, check out nodeinvestoruniversity.com. If you have questions, get on my calendar. It is calendly.com/the note mentor, and get on my calendar for a chat. I'll answer your questions on a call. So hopefully you guys found some good value out of this. I literally think, yeah, Nicholas said definitely the sexy side of real estate. He's pumped, right? He's
Yeah.
pumped. Yeah, Nicholas, it's exciting. It's a good industry right now for people to get into because it's not as saturated as the flip market, as the landlording market, and as the syndication market.
The wholesaling.
Uh-huh. Or wholesale. Well, yeah. Well, listen, wholesaling's a job.
Yeah, wholesaling.
We're not talking about a job here, folks. We are talking about passive cash flow that can set you free financially, not bog yourself down with 60 hours a week of trying to wholesale properties for your next commission. That's not what we're talking about. In fact, I'll tell you guys what, in these passive wealth power hours on Wednesdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on social media, we are never going to talk about wholesaling. I promise you that. How's that? All right. We're talking about passive cash flow so that you can spend your time in life doing what you'd really like to be doing. Okay. Instead of trading your time for money. Okay. So beautiful. Folks, we're going to come to you next Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time, as always, on your socials. Please like, please subscribe, and hit the little bell, the notification bell, okay? If you want to get notified every time we do go live on Wednesdays so you don't miss us. And we appreciate everybody out there. We love y'all. We wish you the best. We hope that you and your family can create a fun and fruitful financial future for yourself. That's a lot of F's. A fun
Yeah, that's a lot of
financial
F's,
future.
but you know what? It's totally feasible. There's another F for you.
Totally feasible. That's so funny. Yes, sir. Well, hey, thank y'all. We love y'all. Blessings, and we will see y'all next Wednesday. Passive Wealth Power Hour with Desi and Patrick. Next week, Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. We'll see you then, folks.
God bless you guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.